Over 60% win rate trading the DAX, 26 hour in a month is awesome. And this is without doing a whole lot of optimizations even. So really excited about this equity curve, and I hope you guys can test it more and see if it's something that will work well for you. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining. So yeah, we've done a couple videos in the past with quarterly theory. Saw some success trading it on EU and GU, kind of in London session. Testing it on ES and NQ in New York session, and recently, I don't know if you guys even knew this, but the FX Replay team recently added a couple more European indices, the FR40, the EU50, and if you guys didn't know this, these European indices are great for, similarly comparing to each other for quarterly theory SMT divergence, similar to how a lot of the US indices, the S&P, the US 30, the NASDAQ are great to compare to each other for the SMT divergence with correlated assets. So now that we have these available, I thought it'd be a really good opportunity, especially for you guys that trade London session and maybe you haven't had the best luck with Forex, or you want to just change it up a little bit, maybe try and trade indices a little bit more. This seems like a really promising strategy. I'll show you guys the analytics a little bit more later, but I tested it for a month. I was able to get about 26R with a pretty killer win rate. So I'll dive in to this more in a little bit. But yeah, in terms of the actual spreads for these, when I was looking at, the Stoxx 50 is often what the Euro 50 is called, and it looked like, maybe $1 to $2 would be a reasonable spread for that. I think I ended up using 3, was maybe a little more conservative than I needed to be. And then German 40, and again, it kind of varies a little bit by broker, but I think $3 is a pretty reasonable spread with the German 40. So when I was testing this on the chart, I had these spreads enabled to try and give me a little more realistic results. So you can kind of see a $3 spread between them. And I think right now, if you set up your session, you need to enter like a $3,000 spread amount for FX Replay. I think they're going to make it a little more intuitive in the future, but that's what I had to put in to get the $3 spread right now. And I think it was like a $30 spread that I put in to give me this $3 input, which you could, again, maybe change it so it's only like $2 on EU50 instead. But I want to go through and show you guys a bunch of trades that I was able to look at. I'll use the kind of closed positions here to kind of review these a little bit quickly with you guys. And again, if you are new to quarterly theory, I really encourage you to go through these previous videos. I go over the strategy PDF in detail, which you can get in the description of the video. I'm not going to, go through everything in detail today because there's already some videos going over the specific indicators that I use in FX Replay, these, what to look for, the specific entry triggers. But high level, just to give you guys a little bit of context, we're looking for kind of cracks and correlations between two, highly correlated cracks in price structure between two highly correlated assets. So we have, a lower high here on EU and a higher high on GU. Could be indices, that the NASDAQ and the S&P, or in this case, we're looking at the DAX, the German 40 and the EU 50. And we're simply like expecting reversals to happen when these kind of cracks in correlation happen, and using either engulfing candles or what I call precision swing points to enter, which I go into more detail in these videos. But now that I've kind of mentioned that, we'll go into a couple of specific examples. I just started this at the beginning of the year. So we started January 6, 2025, and pretty much right off the bat, I started with like 2 pretty awesome trades. So we had a lower high here on the DAX and a higher high here. And the reason I have this set up is it's really easy to visualize these kind of, different price structures with these kind of shaded 90-minute boxes, and then also these 6-hour sessions that I have kind of using the custom indicators that I mentioned in the PDF. So you can see here we have the kind of SSMT, sequential sequential SMT, and then we had a kind of bullish indecisive candle here on the EU50, whereas it was a red candle on the DAX. So that's our precision swing point. So I entered at that point using the recent high, target out at a fixed 3 to 1, and got a really nice win. And then really shortly after that, we had bullish SMT here, where the DAX made a kind of lower low here, and the EU50 made a higher low. And this one, again, I think it was this candle right here. We had kind of a green doji on the EU50 and a red indecisive candle on the DAX. So that was my indecisive candle. I traded the relatively stronger pair, which is the EU50 in this case, and again caught another really nice 3R. So it's caught 6R like super quickly in this first session. All right, so this next session we had actually daily bullish SMT, where the EU50 made kind of an equal low down here, while the German 40 made a higher low here. So we had bullish daily SSMT. And so I was looking for longs this day. Didn't get my entry trigger right away. There wasn't an engulfing candle or a precision swing point until a bit later. You can kind of see here we had a red indecisive candle right here on the DAX that corresponded to this green kind of reversal candle here on the EU50. So I entered at that point. Again, I was using the daily SMT, so a little broader stop. I could have used the same low to be a little more aggressive, but I decided to use kind of the recent low of that daily SMT for my stop loss. Again, targeting out the fixed 3-to-1. Took a little longer to play out because it was a little wider stop loss, but caught a really nice win. Let's go to the next one. All right, so this day we had one loss and one trade that unfortunately didn't fill due to the spreads. But as you can see here, we had some bullish SMT with the DAX making a higher low. EU made a lower low right here, followed by an engulfing candle right here. So that was my entry trigger. Unfortunately, caught a loss on this first one, but then there was a precision swing point with a red doji on the DAX. That was a green kind of reversal candle on the EU50. So I took an attempt right here, but unfortunately, price didn't quite come down like the $3 I needed it to tag me in. It was really close, but not quite. So unfortunately, this one took off without me. I had the right idea, just didn't quite fill me in. I was using a limit order to kind of keep that 3-to-1 in place, but unfortunately, just caught a loss on that day. So let's see. Well, this is the 10th, 14th. So another loss this day. And this is a good example to show you guys some of the optimizations I think we'll have. So it would be hard to see if you didn't have these shaded areas, but you can see pretty clearly a lower high here on the DAX, where we had a higher high on the EU50, followed by a nice engulfing candle to the downside, stop at the recent high. And this one ran in 2.8R in favor, and unfortunately just didn't get quite to that 3R. And so we'll see with the risk reward simulator. I do think it's going to be a little better to do a little less aggressive take profit on this to get a little bit higher win rate, because there were a few trades like this that didn't quite go to 3R but still ran in our favor a little bit. So we'll look at the risk reward simulator after this to see what level it suggests is optimal, but kind of lost unfortunately. Just didn't quite go to hard take profit. Let's look at a few other examples. All right, so this next session we had some bullish SMT here, where the DAX made a lower low here, where this EU made a kind of higher low right here. But one thing I was starting to notice as I did a little more testing with this was that the $3 spread on the DAX was much less material than a $2-3 spread on the EU50. I mean, it's the index is almost 4 times as large price-wise. So you can imagine like a $3 spread on both of these. It's going to be a lot less material on the DAX. So I tried to start prioritizing taking the trades on the DAX. And this is something I would encourage you guys to do as well. So even though in this case, the DAX was technically the relatively weaker pair, because it made the lower low in this case, I took this trade on the DAX and it ended up playing out fine. So this is something that if you backtest and you have trades like this where, normally you would take the trade on the relatively stronger pair, but since of the spreads, maybe I would take it on the DAX. I would encourage you guys to use some tags. So maybe see if these trades are still worth taking, because I do think it's going to be better to just predominantly only trade the DAX, just given the way the spreads work out. But as you can see, we had that engulfing candle. I still use kind of the recent low as my stop loss, and this one took quite a while to play out, but eventually caught our full 3R with this one. So this next day, another great example, we had some bullish SMT here, followed by a precision swing point where we had a kind of red indecisive candle on the DAX and a green indecisive candle over here. So that was my entry, stop at the recent low and targeted out a simple 3-to-1. It's really, really quick, nice win there. Could have held it longer, but I just kind of took it out at the 3-to-1. Let's fast forward a little bit more. So barely win on this case. So we had one loss to start the session. We had some bullish SMT. I'll zoom out so you can see this a little better. So before I even started this day, I noticed we had some kind of bullish SMT kind of between the overnight session and Asia session. Or I guess kind of you can see in between these two kind of 6-hour sessions, we had some bullish SMT. So I was really trying to prioritize longs on this day. And coming in, we had some bullish session SMT kind of in the middle of the London session, where DAX made a higher high right here, or higher low, and the EU50 made a lower low. We had our engulfing candle here. So that was my entry on the DAX. Unfortunately, caught a loss. But this SSMT was still valid. We never came and took out this low, so I was able to take a second attempt. And in this case, we had another engulfing candle. That was my entry. Stop was at the low. And this one got really close to the stop loss. 953. It was like within $1.50 of, or within $1 of the stop. Didn't quite hit it and was able to eventually write it out for the take profit. So caught 2R on this specific day. So let's go over maybe a couple more examples. All right, so one more example. So if you guys remember, you might remember from going over the quarterly theory information. If there's conflicting SSMT before your entry, those you want to avoid those trades, and that's what happened on this day. So we had some, there was quite a bit going on. We had some bearish SSMT to start the session, where EU50 made a lower high here, where the DAX made a higher high. So I was potentially looking for a short, but before I was able to find an entry, we made conflicting SSMT with a kind of lower low here on EU50 compared to the DAX making a higher low. And at the same time, I noticed we had some session bullish SSMT. Comparing these kind of 2 6-hour sessions, we had a lower low on the EU50, higher low on the DAX. So this is where I was like, okay, now I really want to focus on longs, because my higher time frame SMT kind of trumps the lower time frame. So I really want to focus on longs. At that point, I kind of looked for my entry. I eventually got a engulfing candle right here, stop at the low, wrote it out for a nice 3R. And again, at the end of this session, there was a potential short setup here, where at the time we did have potential 90-minute and session bearish SSMT, followed by a kind of precision swing point. We had a green reversal candle here on the EU50, red candle on the DAX. And this is another one that got really close to my take profit. This one went up 2.78R, so it didn't quite hit my 3R TP. I think this was recorded as a loss, but had the right idea. And again, I think this is gonna be one of those opportunities where we could definitely maybe reduce that take profit just a little bit and catch more of these wins instead of getting so close to our take profit. So hopefully that was enough examples for you guys. I really want to kind of dive into the analytics now. So overall, between both assets, testing the whole month of January, I took 24 trades, got 28R with a 54% win rate, average of 3R per win. So this is honestly, again, really solid base model, similar to what we saw with testing some of the other pairs. But I did notice, as I mentioned, that the EU50 trades were definitely a lot lower probability, mainly because of those spreads. I ended up only taking 6 trades on this pair because I noticed that it was going to be better to just trade the DAX over time. So I encourage you guys to focus on taking these trades on the DAX because the spread is going to be less material than the EU50. But you can see here, over 60% win rate trading the DAX, 26R in a month is awesome. And this is without doing a whole lot of optimizations even. So really excited about this equity curve, and I hope you guys can test it more and see if it's something that will work well for you. But let's see if we have any other insights from we've got it filtered on New York time already. It's not going to be super material to go through a lot of the other analytics until you get a larger sample size. I really encourage you guys, once you get this 100, 200 trades, seeing if there's any, time windows you want to cut out. Again, I could see potentially only trading the first kind of 4 hours instead of 2 to 9, maybe 2 to 6. Kind of just trade these first 4 hours and maybe, have less time on the charts, and also just, you can catch maybe the bulk of the strategy by just trading those first 4 hours. Similarly, if you have, multiple days, or 100 plus trades, you can see if there's any days that are, less profitable than others. But again, 26R in a month, definitely can't complain about that. Would really encourage, testing this multiple years, multiple market conditions to really feel good about the data. But let's look at the risk reward simulator. So as I'd mentioned, there were multiple trades we saw that went pretty far into in our favor, but didn't quite hit that 3R threshold. And the great thing about the risk reward simulator is it shows us exactly that. We can improve our results simply by reducing that take profit threshold from 3R to 2.5R, have greater profits, increased win rate, over 70% win rate with the sample size I tested, and just get a better result in general just by making that slight adjustment to our take profit. So hopefully this is a really cool video for you guys to check out. Those of you that trade London session, maybe want to take a little stab at something different than Forex or metals. This is something that I encourage you guys to test now that we have these assets available, and encourage you guys to check it out. So with that, we'll kind of wrap it up, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. See you everyone. Bye.